Tonight, many of America's farmers already feeling the pinch are worried about the possibility of more challenges. That's because President Trump is threatening to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, creating uncertainty about the future of the workforce.
American farmers facing potential problems because of the president. We are talking about Trump's tariffs and the trade wars. And as we look at the Dow right now in real time, here's your headline. New tariffs from China began today on U.S. agricultural goods. And it's a big issue because China is a key market for those very products.
Tonight, America's farmers, already feeling the squeeze, face an uncertain future. President Trump's threat to deport millions of undocumented workers has thrown the agricultural workforce into turmoil. And on top of that, new tariffs are threatening to hit Iowa's farmers hard. With China's latest tariff hikes, some of the state's biggest exports might never leave home, potentially costing farmers millions. I'm hoping for at least a second pause to get me through harvest, or that some deal can be negotiated with these countries, says one farmer, voicing the worry gripping the heartland. But this is more than just a pause or tariff issue. It's a rebellion brewing among America's backbone. Thousands of tractors now sit idle at the border, entire harvests withering under the sun. Even John Deere, once untouchable, has gone eerily silent. This isn't a story about broken machines. It's about a broken system. What began as a quiet standoff at a dusty checkpoint has morphed into something far more dangerous. A full-blown uprising. From Iowa's plains to Sonora's fields, farmers are taking back control, and the tremors are now shaking supply chains, financial markets, and family dinner tables worldwide. It all started with what officials called an inspection, but for anyone watching closely, it was a blockade. 3 weeks ago, Mexican Customs launched what they labeled enhanced agricultural equipment checks. But this was no routine paperwork. It was a surgical strike at two critical ports, Laredo and Nogales. Over 140 John Deere machines were stopped cold. Not a single tractor crossed the border. Meanwhile, rival brands like Case Wage slipped through without a second glance. Kubota, untouched. The message was loud and clear. This wasn't random enforcement, it was targeted, and it hit Deere right where it hurts. The timing? Catastrophic. Mexico's crucial planting season was just weeks away. Fields lay bare, tractors nowhere in sight. Farmers who had already paid for their equipment stood helpless, watching deadlines slip and soil dry. The stakes were higher than dollars. They were existential, and Deere's silence only added fuel to the fire. Officially, Mexican authorities spoke of national standards, safety, and compliance. But behind closed doors, something darker was brewing. This wasn't fallout from a single bad deal. It was long-awaited retribution. For over a decade, frustration with John Deere had been simmering, visible to anyone paying attention. From Nebraska to Sinaloa, farmers had been sounding alarms. Deere's tractors, brilliant as they were, came shackled by proprietary software. Farmers couldn't fix their own machines. What should have been a $50 repair quickly ballooned to $500 just to unlock the software screen. That was before parts, labor, or waiting for a technician even came into play. In rural Mexico, this helplessness proved devastating. In 5 years, over 300 farm failures were directly linked to delayed repairs and equipment downtime. One farmer lost an entire season because his tractor, stuck just 10 miles north, couldn't be delivered in time. Another had a simple sensor fail, but Deere's software lock meant only a dealer 200 kilometers away could reset it. The crop was lost. Then the documents leaked. The moment Mexico blocked those machines, Deere's stock started its freefall. From opening flat to a midday plunge, by week's end, Deere had lost over 27% of its market value. The worst week in its 185-year history. $14 billion vanished. Wall Street scrambled to blame border delays, but the real story was deeper. Deere's entire business hinged on one thing: control. Control over diagnostics, parts, and service. And Mexico had just yanked the plug. More than $1 billion in annual equipment sales and over $2 billion in parts and service revenue were frozen. Inventory piled up in Sinaloa. Penalties stacked in Monterrey. Credit ratings were downgraded. Moody's and S&P slapped Deere with negative watch warnings. Inside Deere headquarters, panic erupted. Cash flow projections were slashed, with burn rates soaring past $370 million per week. But the real shockwave didn't come from Wall Street. It came from wheat fields in Kansas. Michael Peterson, a loyal Deere customer for 30 years, summed it up in one bitter moment. 30 years gone in a single invoice. That invoice? A $500 fee to clear a simple code that took 5 minutes to diagnose. That was the last straw. And he walked away. He wasn't alone. Nebraska's largest agricultural co-op canceled all future Deere orders, redirecting $40 million overnight to rivals Case IH and New Holland. Their public statement said it plainly: "We support companies that support farmers." The American Farm Bureau Federation, representing over 6 million families, delivered a rare and scathing rebuke. Full right to repair must be implemented globally. They praised Mexico for finally forcing Deere to listen. This wasn't just economic, it was symbolic. These weren't tech activists or Silicon Valley rebels. These were hardworking farmers, men and women who once proudly wore John Deere hats, now leading a revolt. Forums exploded with guides on bypassing Deere's software locks. Farmer-led coalitions formed. Hatred was no longer whispered. It was organized, tactical, and deafening. In early spring, 72 farmers from Minnesota filed a class action lawsuit accusing Deere of monopolistic practices, locking farmers into a closed ecosystem of parts, tools, and exorbitant service fees. But while the court slowly turned, farmers found a new weapon: technology. Communities once focused on crop rotation became digital rebellion hubs. Unauthorized repair forums surged 300% in 6 weeks. Software cracks, firmware unlockers, and diagnostic bypass kits spread like wildfire. At the heart of it all was Green Ghost, a downloadable patch that bypassed Deere's locks, cleared fault codes, and restored machine control to the rightful owners. One Iowa farmer called it digital liberation. Alongside this gray market of rogue repair techs, so some former Deere employees quietly offering secret fixes for cash, the fight intensified. Then the bombshell came from inside Deere itself, a 64-page document leaked on encrypted forums, titled Revenue Enhancement Through Service Exclusivity. It was a strategic blueprint to boost profits by restricting repair access. Former engineer Thomas Wilson broke his silence. "We didn't build for uptime," he said. "We built for margin." He described how sensors were programmed to trigger full shutdowns, how vague error codes were intentional, and how executives planned to maximize repair fees during peak harvest when farmers had no choice but to pay. Internal emails revealed the cold calculus: if it fails in May, they'll pay by June. Each 10% repair revenue increase was worth over $350 million. Farmers weren't customers, they were prey. Trust morphed into rage. Robert Johnson, a former Deere service manager, made headlines revealing seasonal elasticity planning, a euphemism for hiking repair costs when farmers could least afford it. A $500 repair in February might jump to $1,500 by August. Critical parts like sensors were restricted, only available through authorized dealers. Farmers lost more than money, they lost entire seasons. Deere denied responsibility, but the documents told a different story: storm pricing, drought escalation, maximum extraction. As Deere struggled, rivals pounced. Case IH launched its Open Farming Initiative, the full diagnostic access, no dealer lockouts, unrestricted repairs. Within 2 weeks, orders hit their highest since the recession. Kubota followed with a farmer-first campaign, open source software, total freedom. Even Mahindra committed to tripling its US dealer network in 18 months. Half the cost, full control. Deere's dealer network began to fracture. Over 140 dealerships entered talks to switch brands. 37 signed letters of intent in just 1 month. One Minnesota dealer said it plainly: "I won't sell shackles." Then came the second disaster: food shortages. 77% of North America's winter vegetables depend on Mexico's farms. When Deere's machines were blocked, planting windows closed. In 10 days, 1.7 million acres went unplanted. Tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, avocados, losses mounted daily. Futures contracts exploded. Tomato prices jumped 47%. Avocado prices surged so fast, exporters paused pricing altogether. General Mills, Kraft Heinz, and grocery giants issued urgent alerts. But the most shocking twist came in leaked diplomatic cables. Mexico's blockade wasn't just protest, it was an economic ultimatum. Their demands were unprecedented: full right to repair all Deere equipment in Mexico, no software locks, no dealer exclusivity, reparations for lost crops, technology transfer to local mechanics, and government oversight on parts pricing during emergencies. Washington was caught off guard. Deere lobbyists, who spent $5 million last year on Capitol Hill, scrambled to contain the fallout. But it was too late. This wasn't just trade, it was a tectonic shift in control. Who controls what, and for how long? Before we continue, hit subscribe to support the channel. When farmers rise up, systems crack, and food itself, our most basic need, becomes the front line in a battle no one expected. But it's here, and it's only just begun.